My name is Emily, and for a very long time, I believed that my life was already decided. I believed that some people are meant to dream and others are meant to wait. I belonged to the second group. I thought life was a series of roles, and mine was clear. I was a wife. I was a woman who waited. And I was someone who quietly accepted disappointment, telling herself it was normal, telling herself it was love. I married Mark when I was young. I was 22, full of hope, full of energy, full of a belief that love was all you needed. He was confident, practical, and sure of his path. I admired him for it. I thought that standing next to him would protect me from the unpredictability of life. I thought that our shared dreams were already ours, waiting for us if we just followed the right path. Back then, I believed love could build anything. I believed feelings could solve everything. I imagined a warm home, soft light spilling through the windows in the morning, shared breakfasts that lingered over laughter, children running through the rooms, leaving toys, crumbs, and joy behind them. I imagined chaos, noise, and happiness. I imagined a life where hope and reality met halfway, and nothing could break the pattern we created. I believed these dreams were natural, almost guaranteed. Everyone around me seemed to reach them so easily. I thought it was only a matter of time. In the first years, our life felt peaceful. Not exciting, not dramatic, just calm. We worked, rested, and talked in the evenings. We talked about plans. We talked about names for children. We talked about the future like it was a waiting gift, one we could unwrap when we were ready. Mark spoke of security, and I spoke of warmth. Together, we thought we had balance. But time has its own rules, and it does not listen to hope or wishes. Month after month, nothing happened. Every time I felt hope rise inside me, it disappeared again, quietly and cruelly. Each disappointment felt heavier than the one before. I tried to stay calm. I tried to stay positive. I smiled at friends when they asked about our plans. I said, "Everything is fine." I nodded when strangers congratulated someone else's pregnancy. I clapped when I felt nothing inside. I told myself that patience was love. That love meant waiting without complaining. That love meant standing silently while life passed by others. That my worth was measured in sacrifice, in endurance, in silence. I visited doctors. I followed advice carefully. I changed routines, diets, habits, everything that might make the difference. I learned words I never wanted to know. I learned procedures, treatments, and medical terms. I counted days. I waited. Waiting slowly became my full-time job. I stopped thinking about my own dreams. I stopped asking what I wanted from life. I lived around my husband's life, his work, his moods, his comfort, his approval. The house was always clean, the laundry folded neatly, the dishes put away. The table was set when he returned home, always on time, always perfect. I believed that my worth was measured in order, in quiet, in serving him. But inside, my heart felt empty. I watched other women become mothers, friends, cousins, colleagues, even strangers whose lives I glimpsed on social media. I congratulated them with a smile that hurt my face and burned my eyes. At home, I cried quietly at night, ashamed of my jealousy, ashamed of my sadness, ashamed of myself. I whispered apologies to the empty room, as if my tears were crimes. Mark slowly became distant. At first, it was small things, short answers, long hours at work, late nights that weren't really work, longer silences between sentences. Then silence replaced conversations altogether. He stopped talking about feelings. He avoided serious conversations. When I tried, he said he was tired. I could feel him leaving long before he actually did. I could feel him slipping through my fingers, one invisible thread at a time. I blamed myself. I blamed my body. I blamed my sadness for pushing him away. So I tried harder. I became quieter, more careful with my words, more invisible. I believed that if I took up less space, he might stay. I smiled when I wanted to scream. I laughed when I wanted to cry. I gave everything I had, even when I had nothing left. Then the truth came, sudden and cruel. It was like a knife I could not see until it had already cut deep. Mark had another woman, and she was pregnant. I remember the exact moment he said it. The room felt too small. The walls felt too close. My heart felt too loud, like it wanted to escape my chest. I could not understand how life could be so unfair, so precise in its cruelty. The child I dreamed about for years would belong to someone else. When we talked, there were no screams, no drama, only tired voices and heavy silence between words. He admitted everything, without excuses, without emotion. That was the moment I understood something important. I had already lost him long before that day. We separated. The house became empty. The silence felt endless and alive, filling every corner. I walked through rooms I once loved and felt nothing. Everything I had built around us seemed meaningless. At night, I lay awake, listening to nothing. No breathing beside me, no familiar sounds, only thoughts, loud, messy, unbearable. I questioned every choice I had made, every year I had given, every tear, every compromise, every silence. I wondered who I would be without him, without the role of a wife, without waiting. For weeks, I lived like a shadow. I moved through days without purpose. I ate because I had to. I slept because my body demanded it. I walked because the world expected movement. I felt forgotten by life itself. Then one morning, While looking at my reflection in the mirror, I realized something painful. I no longer recognized myself. I saw a woman who had disappeared while trying to save a marriage. A woman who became smaller and quieter with each year. A woman who forgot her own worth. That realization hurt more than the betrayal. That was the day I chose change, not because I felt strong, but because I could not survive like that anymore. I joined a gym. The first weeks were hard and humiliating. My body felt weak. My movements felt awkward. My confidence was low. But I showed up anyway, even on days when I wanted to hide. With every workout, I felt something return to me. Control, strength, respect for my body, not as something broken, but as something alive. I pushed myself further than I thought I could. I celebrated small victories. The first time I ran a full kilometer without stopping, I cried. I found a job. It scared me deeply, but it also excited me. For the first time in years, I earned money with my own hands. I made decisions. I felt independent. I was not living in someone else's shadow anymore. My days gained structure again. My mind became clearer. My heart became lighter. I changed my appearance. New clothes, a new haircut. Not to impress anyone, but to see myself again in the mirror. Slowly, people started noticing. They told me I looked different, happier, stronger, and they were right. Months later, I decided to travel. 2 weeks by the sea. I needed space. I needed silence that healed instead of hurt. The sea felt like freedom. The sound of waves calmed my thoughts. I breathed deeply for the first time in years. That was where I met Daniel. He was kind in a quiet way. He listened carefully. He did not interrupt. He looked at me like I mattered, like my words were important. We talked for hours. We shared stories without fear or shame. With him, I did not feel broken or incomplete. Those 2 weeks felt unreal. We walked along the beach at night. We laughed like young people. We shared moments without expectations, without promises. When it ended, I felt sad but grateful. I did not feel abandoned. I felt full. For the first time in years, I did not feel like something was missing inside me. There was no emptiness to fill, no silence that hurt. I carried the memories of those days by the sea gently, like something fragile and precious. I did not replay them with pain. I replayed them with gratitude. Back home, life continued calmly. There were no dramatic changes, no sudden happiness, no deep sadness, just balance. Work filled my mornings. Routine filled my days. Rest came naturally in the evenings. I cooked simple meals, opened windows, let fresh air into the rooms. I slept deeply, without waking up from heavy thoughts. For the first time, peace did not feel temporary. Then my body began to change. At first, I ignored it. I told myself it was stress, travel, tiredness, but the feeling stayed. I was exhausted in the mornings. Sounds felt louder. Smells felt stronger. My emotions came without warning. I felt tired, sensitive, different. One morning, standing alone in the bathroom, something inside me told me the truth before the test ever could. My hands were shaking as I waited. Seconds felt like minutes. My heart beat so hard I thought I might hear it echo in the walls. When I saw the result, the world stopped. I was pregnant. I sat on the floor, my back against the cold tiles, unable to move. Tears came without fear, without shame. They were not tears of pain. They were tears of disbelief. After all the years of waiting, after all the prayers, the silence, the disappointment, life found me when I stopped asking. I did not feel angry. I did not feel confused. I felt calm, like something had finally returned to its place. Then Mark returned. I did not expect him. When I opened the door and saw him standing there, I felt nothing rush through me. No fear, no love, no anger. He looked lost, older than I remembered, smaller somehow, as if life had taken more from him than he could carry. His voice sounded tired when he spoke. He said his lover betrayed him. The child was not his. Everything he thought he had built collapsed. He said he made a mistake. He said he wanted another chance. I listened quietly. I did not interrupt him. I did not argue. I felt no need to defend myself or explain my pain. When he finished speaking, the silence between us felt clear, not heavy. Then I told him the truth. I'm pregnant. The words were simple. They did not shake my voice. They did not hurt my chest. Mark froze. He stared at me, unable to speak. I saw confusion, regret, and something close to fear, but I did not feel responsible for his emotions anymore. He stood there for a moment longer, then turned and left. I closed the door gently. That night, my phone rang. Daniel. Hearing his voice made my heart beat faster, not with anxiety, but with recognition. He said he could not forget me. That something about those 2 weeks stayed with him, followed him, refused to let go. He said he searched for me everywhere. The next day, I went to meet him in the city. The streets were busy, but I felt calm, knowing this meeting would change everything. He waited outside a small cafe, and when our eyes met, the noise around us seemed to fade. I told him everything about the pregnancy, about Mark, about the years of waiting, and the pain I had carried silently. He listened quietly, his presence steady and reassuring. When I finished, the silence was not heavy. It was real, full of understanding and possibility. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to believe fully. We left the cafe together, walking side by side through the city streets, hand in hand. From that day on, we never separated. Life was not perfect, but it was honest. Every day, I felt whole. I was no longer a woman who waited. I was a woman who lived. My pain had shaped me, but did not define me. My life had not ended with betrayal. It began with courage. And this time, I was finally home with him and our child.